Now, to weigh in on this sentencing, let's bring in criminal defense lawyer Elliott Willschick. Elliott, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Scott.
What do you make of this sentencing? In a way, it's automatic. The judge is almost it has to make this kind of sentence.
That's exactly right. The only choice they really had was going to be concurrent or consecutive, and they gave her 8 concurrent sentences, which didn't make a lot of sense because they're 8 individuals. But mostly, if they had followed and it was they gave consecutive sentences, it would have been symbolic, as she wouldn't have been eligible for parole for 8 times 25 years. So overall, though, the judge didn't have much discretion in how to proceed with sentencing.
In terms of discretion, would the victim impact statements carry any weight?
They certainly are important, but the sentence was already decided between the Crown and the defense, and so the judge was really there to just approve of it. Normally, that type of thing can affect sentencing, but in this case, it's pretty clear. It's 25 years. There's no discretion to go under or above that. It only came down to whether or not it was concurrent or consecutive, and that affects the parole eligibility.
This is the legal developments on the criminal side. What about civilly? Is there any liability in this?
There's certainly now some liability with regard to the homes where she worked and the places where she worked, the hospitals and such. They're probably going to be hit fairly hard by people now trying to get some type of compensation. The questions will be, did they know what her actions were? Was she following procedures? Are there things they could have done to prevent this? Those are all things that are going to certainly play into any type of civil suits.
Those civil suits, would they be essentially put on hold until the criminal matter is dealt with, or have they been progressing already?
I'm not aware if they've been progressing already, but in general, you don't have to put those off. It sometimes makes sense to see what happens first, and then now you know that she's criminally responsible and that there was some wrongdoing there. So then it does make it slightly easier to proceed in that realm.
Now, in terms of regulation of some of these homes, there are going to be a lot of questions and also a public inquiry. What are you expecting this inquiry might deal with?
I would expect to be looking into the regulations and what exactly is in play, access to things such as insulin, and sort of what precautions can be taken in the future so that they do have someone who, it's difficult to prevent someone who's intent on murdering people. However, perhaps limiting access to things like that to make it much more difficult, and then maybe to have people who are watching over as well. So there certainly will be some new regulations, one would hope, and perhaps even new legislation.
Criminal defense lawyer Elliott Willschick. Elliott, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Scott.